listening to the Insight NBL Show with your hosts, Matrix and Hammer.
Hello, we are here with the Insight Fantasy Sports doing some shorts. Mate, today we are looking at budget ballers, basically downgrade options. Why is this so important?
Well, we've got every single team on the double round 15 and round 16. It is the time to load up on the studs. The schedule doesn't matter for the next 2 weeks. So to afford the guys we want, the KDs, the Cottons, all these guys, we need to downgrade to get a little bit of cash if we're not so flush right now. And you've got a heap of targets for us.
I do. And I'm going to start with my boy, Mitch McCarron. There's a little asterisk here. It's basically for a week. PJC is back in round 17. He's played 27 and 32 minutes in the last couple games. He's still got a game to go before the next round gets released. But he scored 20 plus Supercoach points in both, looking comfortable in that starting role, getting everyone involved. I'm pretty stoked with Mitch McCarron at the moment.
Yeah, you called this last week. I wasn't as high. Obviously, the opportunity was going to be there, but he's exceeded expectations. This is one of the ones, like you said, it's a 1 week rental. Could have been 2 if you got in last week when you said it, but I'd imagine that role goes from hero to zero once PJC's back. But look, if it's going to allow you to bring in one of the guns, it's a really viable move to have a bench player who's actually going to contribute and play bulk minutes across the double.
Yeah, I do think he's going to still come in with a negative break even once he slows down. Of course, we know he's going to rise in cash a little bit, but it's more getting a guy that's he's 82K at the moment. We're expecting price rises. He's probably going to be in the early 100s, maybe 110. Just getting in a guy that's good for 1 week, because when we talk about nothing and we're trying to find alternatives to nothing, when you talk about nothing, guys, if you get in a guy that's 58K that's not going to play, he's going to get you 0 points. I think Mitch McCarron has done enough that he's going to get you at least some points.
Yeah, 100%. These New Zealand guys we've looked at, I called Mooney as the one to get last week. You went with Mitch McCarron. I think we've both done well out of PJC's absence. So having a viable downgrade option who's going to play, who's going to score, and who's shown he can do it last week, and as a bonus gives you a little bit of a cash rise, I don't think you can go wrong with Mitch. Money,
yeah, we can't.
Mitch.
Yeah. We can't talk about Matt Mooney anymore because, frankly, he's not a downgrade option anymore. He's just too expensive. Having a look at rising teams, not that New Zealand's are rising teams, Southeast Melbourne have put themselves in the picture, and a lot of it has come from Joey Wieskamp just being able to score now. He's played 20 and 26 minutes in his last couple games. He's 128K at the moment. He's going to be more like 150, 160K next week. What's your thought on Wieskamp? He's done it for 3 games now.
Yeah, I think the sample size is getting big enough to take a punt. We talked about it earlier in the week that it was sort of a bit of a risk, but the high returns were there if you want to have a look at it, and some guys have really cashed in on it. I like it, and I'm thinking it's similar to what we called probably a month ago with Derek Walton Jr. He fell out of favour, out of the rotation for whatever reason, whether it was injury, something else going on. Now seems to be back in the fold, and look, the coach there is running with a hot hand, and right now Wieskamp's hot.
He does have a single in round 18 and then a double in round 19. So just remember, you can't trade everybody out in round 20, but he might be worth enough money that if you've got your team set up around, he's probably good to get to somebody half decent at probably, I think, 200K plus by the end of round 19.
And don't forget, he's guard forward eligible. So maybe you can just massage him through your squad rather than having to trade him to get through an extra week. And Southeast Melbourne are in the hunt again. After the abysmal start to the season, they're in playoff contention, rising up the ladder. So they're going to be playing their best team week in, week out.
Look, this one could be a little bit of a stretch, but he's just cheap enough for me to start considering. And it's Jarrell Martin, of course, has done good things in the league. I never thought I'd see him at basically 150K, but here we are. Starting to play a few more minutes recently. So he's played 22 18 and 28 in the last few games. Maybe he's starting to get a bit more healthy. They're starting to call on him. It's just trending in the right direction that if you're looking to punt on somebody, you could look at him. The schedule's good. He's got 3 doubles in a row heading into round 16.
Yeah, look, I don't love this one, but if your starters are set, this could be a slide from maybe a Mason Peatling at the same price to someone with a little more upside now. Look, how long does it take a bloke to get in shape? We were told at the start of the season he's working his way into fitness. Man, the only thing he's fitness in his mouth is bloody more cheeseburgers. But Isaac Humphries is playing well. Trez is playing well. I just don't see any real opportunity. I think he's where he's going to be.
When I went hunting, I looked for somebody to get out of Sam Menenga. I hate owning him at the moment. Mason Peatling at least has that double in round 20, which I think will prove valuable. And you can flip a coin as to whether he scores 20 points or 7 points every week. I think that's going to be similar with Jarrell Martin. But Menenga just seems to be scoring 7 points every week at the moment. So,
yeah, makes sense. Who's your next?
Mate, short ad break. We're going to head to the standard squeeze. Use promo code IFS15 for 15% off your order from us. I am loving their products at the moment, drinking out of it at the moment. Coffee hot in the morning, beer cold in the afternoon, a little whiskey with some whiskey stones afterwards for your little nightcap. I tell you what, maybe you could get a little Barocca in there after you have your coffee. I tell you what, you can use these cups for anything.
And you just call that Monday night, the gift that keeps on giving.
Mate, Max Darling. I'm starting to get off New Zealand Breakers players, but looking at people like Jarrell Martin's 150K, Joey Wisecamp's going to be 150K, Max Darling's 90K. He hasn't been scoring that well, but his minutes have been trending in the right direction. And they've kind of looked better with Darling on the floor than a Menenga. 22, 14, and 24 minutes. Even though it hasn't translated to Supercoach points, the best ability is availability sometimes, and he's at least on the court.
Yeah, he's playing. It's rocks and diamonds with Darling, though. We've seen some games where he's shown a lot, and then he plays minutes, and he goes for that 0-0-0 Tony Snell stat line sometimes. But the way they're playing at the moment without PJC is a completely different game to what they were playing beforehand. Taco Fall is now a target, and surrounding him with shooters, your Menengas, your all these other guys. Look, I just don't love the Darling one. I think he can do better.
All right. Well, guys that you can get for 93K, I'm going to skip to your boy Clint Steindl.
Now, this is loose change.
He's good. No, yeah. Well, he's cheap as shit. Like, it's only 30K from a guy that's 60K, absolute bottom dollar.
Starting.
Yeah, and he's 60K cheaper than, like, Wisecamps and Jarrell Martins and guys like that. I think it's worth the 30K to have a punt on somebody like Max Darling or Clint Steindl. Like you said, at least he's starting.
And I think we need to remember the reason we're downgrading. It is to afford some of these studs and to stack our starters with a really premium squad over the next 2 weeks. And maybe that extra 30K is going to be the difference for you to do that. So I don't hate it. He's been starting, not playing the most minutes, but hey, when he's on, 3 points is 3 points.
Yeah, 100%. My last one here is Alex Higgins Tisha. So he's 126K at the moment. Cairns actually, heading into round 16, play the most amount of games than any other team. Now, we've been poo-pooing Cairns for what has felt like 6 months. It's only been about 9-10 rounds. Higgins Tisha is always a chance of playing. I know he was basically a development player, but he's a chance of playing because they're always a chance of getting blown out at the moment.
Yeah. And where they're at in the season, they're not making the play-in. They're not making the playoffs. They just want to play spoiler, and they want to prepare for next year. So giving these guys who are meant to be the future of this squad, give them some hope, give them some minutes, say, please come back and don't do the Keanu Pinder, don't do the Mitch McCarron, don't do the Cam Glidden, don't do the long list of players who leave for greener pastures. maybe they give him some more minutes and say, show us what you can do, young buck. I don't hate this one.
No, I like it, and it gives you, like you said, an extra probably 40K from Wisecamp. I just want to preface that we aren't telling you that these guys are must-own players. If Mitch McCarron was in this role and we were talking about round 6, I 100% would be calling him must-own. If Joey Wisecamp was on this trajectory in round 8, I 100% would call him must-have. But right now, we're looking at downgrading somebody that's maybe you're stuck with Ben Henschel, for example. You're downgrading somebody to somebody like this so that you can have 100K to get Keandre Cook up to an absolute gun. Because those premium players need to be on the court. And if these guys can score you 20 points on the bench, even 25 points on a double and gets you an extra 15 points, it could be the difference between a huge score and a tiny score, because there's going to be some teams with 59K scrubs or nuffs out there.
Yeah, and after this round 15, 16, teams will be loaded with studs. These bench guys who can make it that little last kick of cash generation might give you the bench you need to get over your next opponent.
Mate, thanks for listening to Budget Ballers with Matrix and Hammer. You have listened to an Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. Cheerio.